welcome to another edition of Pat's Chat, a Final Four Rewind brought to you by Jim McKay Chevrolet. I'm Bill Rowland, and it's my pleasure as we talk about round 3, game 3 of the NCAA tournament run from 2006 as the Patriots defeated Wichita State. Joining me today, two seniors from that team, Tony Skinn and Jai Lewis, and an assistant coach now at the University of Miami, and Chris Caputo. Guys, first off, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time out. And I will start with this before we get to the game. Talk to me about what that week, or I guess 4 days leading up to the Wichita State game, you knock off Michigan State, you knock off Carolina, you come back to the university, and you guys are rock stars at this point. So I'll start with you, Jai. What were those 4 days like on campus, getting to practice, all that stuff, where suddenly everybody recognizes you and you guys are superstars?
It was a little hectic. It took us a lot longer to get to class. Couldn't really go into the Johnson Center like we wanted to. It was packed in there. Couldn't go in there to eat no food. I want to say when we got back, we had cameras on campus. I think Shaq had a camera following him around everywhere he went. He thought he was a little director going on with that. But it was just hectic. It was a good experience. We got people coming up to us, talking to us that wouldn't normally talk to us, I guess because they were scared or whatever. But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Tony, how about you? What do you remember from that week?
Yeah, I remember that week just, like Josh said, just being able to walk around campus and, what normally would be like a 10-minute transition through the Johnson Center was more like an hour. I don't know if Caputo or the rest of the coaches were checking classes, but we were getting there late for sure. But definitely, it also felt like, George Mason, from an enrollment standpoint, it felt like you went from like a 10,000 student student body to like a 40,000 student body, because you just saw so many people that were supporting us. But definitely, one of the best experiences, and walking around with this guy, I definitely felt like I needed a bodyguard, and that's who he was.
Chris, how was the prep that week for the coaching staff, knowing that these guys were having so much of their time, whether it was students or media or whatever? Everybody wanted a piece of Mason at that point, even before getting to the Final Four. That week, it was amazing that all the media crush. How tough was it as a staff to prepare?
Yeah, I think I learned about for the first time what the second weekend of the tournament brought in terms of media. And it's probably at the time didn't realize, but hey, you go from 64 or whatever it was back then, might have been 68 at that time, to 16, and now all that media that was covering the 64 are now, they're still working. They're just covering 16. So you got more people, obviously, and so much excitement. I also think, for us, maybe what was lucky is we had played Wichita State, 2 weeks earlier, in Wichita. So there was a familiarity there for the guys. But I definitely think from coach's standpoint, it was, hey, how do we keep them somewhat focused on the task at hand while it would be nearly impossible to live your normal life that week. I always say it's more commonplace now for teams, to get into the Sweet 16 or the Final Four. But back then it was certainly a relatively new thing. And you also, I think, realize how basketball crazy the DC area is. That it's a big deal. High school basketball, college basketball, NBA basketball in the DC area. So when somebody, hits a milestone like we did, and I believe Georgetown was in the Sweet 16 as well.
Yeah,
so
that year,
I'm sure people were covering them and then coming across the river and covering us too. So it was really incredible, but we certainly benefited from playing Wichita State 2 weeks earlier. We knew them pretty well.
So they put us in a hotel down in Crystal City. So I got to ask Jai and Tony, was it easier to be there where your friends and family could still come see you? Because I remember a lot of people down in the hotel lobby, people coming in and out, and after dinner, there'd be everybody gathering there. Do you think that kind of gave you guys a sense of being still in place, or would you have rather have been somewhere else like we were in Dayton where maybe there wasn't as much family and friends to worry about? Tony, I'll start with you with that one.
I think, and I don't know, Jack can defer, but I thought it gave us a sense of like a comfort zone. Just knowing that, at the end of the day, we're literally 30 minutes down the road from where we would normally play a home game. And just kind of thinking of it as a player, you're thinking and counting the amount of tickets that you're giving away, knowing that you're going to have that support.
That was the biggest problem for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But just kind of knowing that and having just that support in the back of your head, and then you finally show up and it looks almost like, it's a home game. It definitely made a lot of sense. And, obviously it's not a secret that playing in our backyard kind of helped us, in that game and, the game after.
Jai, how about it? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Tony. It just felt like another home game. It really felt like we was at Mason the whole time, to be honest with you. Like Tony said, my main issue was who I'm giving tickets to. Do I got enough tickets? Do I need to go to my freshmen and ask them for their tickets? So.
And I got a funny story I got to throw in there, Jai. It was comfortable enough for me to go get a haircut the night before the game. I know you remember that, Jai.
Yeah.
Snuck out and went and got a little 15-minute haircut. That's how comfortable it was. Couldn't get that anywhere else.
Right.
You're probably not going to go get the haircut in Dayton, I would imagine, if you were at the hotel.
You'd have been putting yourself at risk there.
All right, so let's talk. I think a big story that people have heard, more than likely, if they followed this journey, even back in 2006, a big story from Thursday's practice, and I'm sure you guys all remember this, and I'll start with you, Chris. We passed Wichita State in the back hallway, and their guys would not even acknowledge us, wouldn't look our way, would heads down, eyes down, everything. And I remember one of the administrators that was with us at the time from Mason said, this game's already over. They don't want anything to do with us. Did you guys notice how much they avoided any kind of eye contact, any kind of interaction with us? I'll start with you, Coach Caputo.
Yeah, I mean, with the risk of sounding somewhat arrogant, I would say we had a lot of respect for Wichita State, and the build-up to the Bracket Buster game, knowing how good of a team they were, how good of a league the Missouri Valley was at the time, and how difficult a place it was to play at the Charles Koch Arena. And I think, Jai and Tony connected on that three late, could have gone another way had Tony missed it or Jai not found them. But the reality is, I do think that there was a sense of confidence from our group that, hey, we went in there and beat them in a very, very difficult environment. We had played 3 games at the arena. We'd played American that year, and we had played 2 games the year before. Obviously, being close to home, we were very comfortable. And I could tell, and I know those guys, I know obviously Turge and Pooh Williamson I worked with. He's an assistant I worked with here. When we walked past them, I could get the sense that they wanted no part of us, being honest. I really felt the way. And again, the game got closer, but I think it had a big to do with us jumping on them the way we did in the first half, because I do think their guys felt invincible at home. And when we beat them there, they almost felt like they were coming back on the road against a team that was better than them. And that's in all due respect to them, but I certainly could have felt it.
Jai, how about it? Did you guys get that sense as players that they kind of were I guess intimidated might be the word, that coming to the Verizon Center in your backyard, they were a little intimidated coming in?
Yeah, I think we sensed that. Even during the warm-ups of the game, it wasn't really like, you didn't feel that energy like this is going to be a tough game or we got to really lock in. I want to say even that week before the game, our confidence in practice, knowing that we got to play Wichita State, I feel like we was already in the mindset, not that we was looking over this team, but we was already in the mindset, yeah, we went up to Wichita, we played them in a tough arena. We already took their best shot, because even the game at Wichita was all the way down to the end was a tough game, and we feel like we took their best shot, and they couldn't really stop us. I think when we played them in the Bracket Buster, I think their game plan was to, let me and Will do what we want to do and try to stop our guards. But when they realized me and Will can actually play, and going into the tournament game, they decided to double me and Will and let our guards do what they do. But I just think we were just overconfident, and we didn't see ourselves losing to them at all.
Tony, it was your first start in an NCAA tournament. You obviously didn't play against Michigan State, came off the bench against North Carolina. Any nerves that you recall getting that first start in the tournament, or was it just hey, man, another game?
I left my nerves behind on Selection Sunday, man. Once we got it, I left it all behind, and
Hey, you were nervous
Yeah,
on Selection Sunday.
I was definitely. I get nervous all Selection Sundays after that because of that Sunday. I think it was obviously like John Coach said. I think the biggest thing for us going into that game, and Coach L used to say this all the time. The coaching staff used to say all this time. Just the amount of pressure kind of just got lifted off of us. It was obviously Michigan State, and then it was North Carolina, and obviously we beat the big dogs. And then that power just kind of tilted a little bit going into that Wichita State, I thought. But also at the same time, just having the leadership that we had with myself, John Lamar, just knowing how hard it is to beat a really good team 2 times in a row. And for what it's worth, we went down there and obviously played a really good game in a tough atmosphere. We had the confidence, but more so, just a little bit less pressure. And then you add the ingredient of being at home, and it's just one of those things where, like, if we do what we're supposed to do early on, this is not just going to be a normal game. We're going to be pretty confident and just kind of coasting. I think that's what we did. We jumped on them pretty early, and they were just kind of hanging in there. But we were the better team for sure.
Yeah, you talk about jumping on them early. It was 14-3, 4 minutes into the ball game. You guys came out and hit 4 3-pointers, 2 of them from Follerin. What do you remember about those opening minutes and just basically taking any heart that they may have had in that game? It was done 4 minutes into the ball game. Tony, do you remember those opening?
I gotta be careful how much I talk about that team, because I've gotten really close to one of their former players, PJ Kuznart. That's my guy from Houston. Obviously I have one of his players here, freshman Jahari Long, and he still talks about it all the time. So I got to be careful how I talk about his team. But I just remember, I know for me, from a personal standpoint, just having, the opportunity just to get back in the starting lineup, hadn't come off the bench since, my first year at Mason as a sophomore. And having that opportunity to just kind of get back in the mix with the guys, it was just more so for me, like, whatever it takes, whether it's 10 assists or whether it's, 30 points, just trying to play the right way, because I didn't want to, I always had it in the back of my head that I didn't want, the incident that I had to get in the way of what these guys kind of picked me up doing, taking care of business against Michigan State. I didn't want no smoke with Follerin, because we had some smoke in the locker room. But I just remember just the first couple of possessions. I actually remember a transition play where, I think I got it, sped it up the court, got to the corner, kicked it to Shaq. Shaq might have kicked it back to me or whatever it was, and I just reversed it right back to him, and it was a wide open shot. And that's just, what I vividly remember about that game, and us just gelling really, really, really early on and just kind of just taking the air away from Wichita State's confidence.
Jai, you guys were up 16 at half, and it really didn't get much closer until 2 minutes to go in the game. What do you remember about the conversation, either listening to them talk on the floor, Wichita State, or your team itself? What was it like as you guys built this big lead up?
I really didn't hear them talking. They weren't talking no trash. They weren't talking to us. I think our conversation on the court was pretty much, don't let what happened in North Carolina happen to us throughout the game, because we jumped on them early. We knew that North Carolina jumped on us early, and we was able to walk them down. We just didn't want that to happen. And again, we had the utmost confidence that game. I guess because we beat them before. We just felt real good going into the game, and once we was playing, it was over.
Coach Caputo on the bench as you guys are watching this lead go again, 14-3 early, 16 at halftime, 18 early in the second half. Obviously confident that you're going to pull this game out, but what was the conversation like as far as, were you surprised that the game went that way, considering you had played Wichita State in such a tight one just a couple weeks prior?
Yeah, again, I would say we were pretty confident. The incident sort of at practice maybe tipped their hat a little bit about how they were feeling. So I wasn't necessarily surprised that we jumped on them, but I think, to their points, a really good team. They settled in. They're chipping away. Obviously, they're in the Sweet 16. They had a great year. They've got a really good staff. Like, eventually, they were going to, keep chipping away, coming back at us. And I can remember in the second half, and I don't exactly know the score. You guys would better, but Jordan Carter hits a big shot in that game, I believe. Like maybe they had cut it to 6, and that brought it to 9, or
Yeah, he had a 3 at the top of the key.
right. But what was the score at that time, Bill? I don't exactly remember. But I remember it was a big. Whether the score is relevant or not, it was like from a momentum standpoint, they were coming at us.
Yeah.
And Jordan hits a big 3.
Well, I know it only got down to 8 with 2 minutes to go. That was the first time they got it
So that-
under 10
yeah.
points.
So that it might have gone 8 to 11 when he hit it, maybe. And I remember we're always on Jordan Carter about shooting open shots. He's a better shooter than he gave himself credit for. So I remember feeling good that he took that one and knocked it down.
So, guys, you win that game. You're into the Elite 8. Did Coach L let you stay and watch Washington and UConn to figure out who you're going to play next? Or was it right back to the hotel and we're going to lock in and we'll figure it out the next day? Tony, how about it? What did you guys do right after that game?
Well, I don't even remember what we did, but I'm guessing Caputo, Coach Cherry, and Coach Johnson stayed and watched
We stayed
every minute of that game, and we were allowed back to we went back to the hotel. From what I remember, I don't remember. I don't know about you, John.
I remember. I remember being. I don't know. I think Coach's philosophy then, it's changed a little bit, but was to send guys back to the hotel just in case. And again, I don't know if there's any way that Rudy Gay and Brandon Roy weren't going to play good, but like in history, he said there were a couple of times where teams have stayed, the teams didn't play that good, and the guys were like, "Oh, we got this." So hey, send them home. We'll watch it on film and pick out what we want. But I remember watching Brandon Roy and Rudy Gay saying, geez, like these guys are pretty good.
I think he gave the option. I think he gave the option for guys to stay or go. And I believe I stayed. And watching Brandon Roy and Rudy Gay go at it, I was sitting there hoping, yeah, let's play UConn over Washington. I would have rather played UConn over.
Hey, John, I'm pretty sure we were trying to get back to the hotel too because we had friends and family there too.
Yeah, I think we only watched the first half.
Yeah,
we only watched the first half, or maybe even the second half, or something. I know we watched one of the halves, and no, we definitely watched the second half because Brandon Roy. I remember Brandon Roy was like he was taking too many shots. The shots he was taking was putting them out the game instead of putting them in the game, and that's when I was like, yeah, I'd rather play UConn over Washington. Washington had some big boys down low. I think like 2, 3, 6, 10 guys. I think our advantage was to play against UConn than play.
That was a hell of a game too. That was an overtime game, I think.
Yeah, win the overtime, sure. Yeah.
So, guys, you win that game, and obviously then you find out you're playing UConn. Just to wrap up this with Wichita State, after you win it, and Jai, you said you'd rather have played UConn, and other coaches, Coach L has even said that he was happy that it was UConn because he didn't think that you guys would be able to handle some of the guards from Washington. You get back and you find out it's UConn. How confident? It's easy to look back now and say, oh, yeah, we knew we had a shot. But how confident were you guys? You're playing the #1 overall seed in the tournament in just under 48 hours. How confident were you that you could hang with UConn? Tony, I'll start with you.
Like I said earlier, I think, as you kind of go through this whole process of, knocking off UConn, knocking off UNC, knocking off Michigan State, knocking off a really good Wichita State team. Like your thought process changes a little bit. And UConn is as good of a program as they were. I didn't think at that point it mattered who we played. I know for us, and I say this all the time, being from the DMV gave us the opportunity to compete against pretty much any and everybody over the years. And you're talking about, 6, 7 guys that have seen these guys all the time. In the summertime, you're constantly competing at a high level. And once you knock off some of these blue bloods and some of these great programs, again, UConn at that point, as good as they were, #1 seed, it was just another obstacle in our way, just another game for us. So I don't think going into that game, it made a difference. Were we excited? Absolutely. Did we tilt the scale back from, now Wichita State back to now at UConn, and we got to be, have our antennas up and ready to, compete at a high level? Absolutely. But I don't think any one of those guys, including myself, had some type of fear that it was UConn.
Coach, how about it? Were you guys, Coach Ellis said, now post the Final Four that he would have rather have played UConn than Washington. Was that the feeling as you guys were watching the game?
Yeah, in typical jinxing yourself fashion, I remember saying, man, I think I'd rather play against Rudy Gay than Brandon Roy in the first half. And then, of course, Rudy came out, and I think he got 9 straight to start our game. And I said, yeah, that's because I said that out loud. I blame myself for those points. But, obviously both great teams. And we're probably a little bit more. I thought there was something about the whole Will Thomas, Rudy Gay relationship that sort of maybe in the back of your mind, you thought, everyone talks about Will never losing to Rudy Gay. And maybe there's something to that. So I guess, a small piece of me thought that's an interesting thing.
All right, guys, this has been a fantastic rewind. I really appreciate all the time, and we're going to catch up with a couple of you guys, Jai and Tony, to talk a little UConn. So we're looking forward to that. Chris, as always, good luck with the rest of the season with the University of Miami. Tony with Seton Hall, and then we'll catch up with you guys real soon. Thanks for joining us here on this Patriot Rewind of the 2006 Final Four run. Guys, good luck with everything, and we appreciate the time.
All right.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.